So Kershaw finally did it. They finally made a manual USA made knife. Now I'm really excited about this because I've been hoping and wishing and screaming for this for a while now, because the last time I remember them doing a manual USA made knife was the Kershaw bare knuckle, and that's been discontinued for a while now. So I'm really excited to test this. We are going to do some edge retention tests and all kinds of tests and see if it's a good knife for you, see what the cutting performance is like, and just see how the overall build quality is. So let's check out the Kershaw BelAir. So the Kershaw BelAir. Now, I've had the Kershaw BelAir for quite a while now. I've been able to do some thorough testing on it. Spoiler alert, I like it a lot. I like it so much that we actually got some for the NEEVEKNIFECO site. So if you do decide at the end of this video that you are going to want to get one, please hit up the NEEVEKNIFECO site first. And if they are sold out there, if they're not available anymore, I'll link other sites down there as well. Now, the Kershaw BelAir is in MAGNACUT steel. Now, I will say, this is probably going to be around $150, $160, give or take, right around there. That's what I'm guessing. You know, at the time I'm filming this, the numbers are still being finalized, but I think that they could change the steel to 14C28N and hopefully get it around the $100 mark. So that would be really awesome if they could do that. If they could make this exact same knife, you know, right around $100, $110 with 14C, that would be amazing. And I think they could do it because not only have they done 14C, I think they were the first ones to do 14C, but I'm pretty sure they helped bring it to the market. But either way, they do a good job with it. And, you know, I think that that would be awesome to see. And I hate to put it only on Kershaw when I say this next statement, but I do feel that it is kind of on Kershaw to give the knife community around $100 knife that's manual, by the way. That's a manual knife, not automatic, a manual knife around $100 that's USA made. So hopefully we do see that in the future. Either way, this one's MAGNACUT steel, so we do have a super steel on this one, and we'll talk about the edge retention here in a second. It does have aluminum scales. The aluminum scales in this case are white with a deep carry clip that's reversible and a crossbar lock. Now, the action is amazing. They knocked the action out of the park. Rock solid lockup. I mean, like, this thing is a damn vault. I mean, it is crazy how locked up it is. And I've done lots of testing on it, so for it to be as tight as it still is, that's amazing. Now, the action, the thumb studs are exactly the way I want them. They're placed very well. They have a good grippiness to them. They're the kind of thumb studs I do like, and they're comfortable, snappy, easy to deploy, easy to use. And you have the crossbar lock that's also, you know, they're not sticking out very far, but I actually like that because they're sticking out just enough that you can easily grip it. Like, you'll never, you know, slip or anything like that. They're also nice and grippy, so very easy. And, you know, when you drop it, it is riding on bearings, so it is very, very smooth. You just give it a little bit of encouragement. So, a crossbar lock on bearings, very, very smooth. The detent is tuned perfectly. I'm happy to see them tune a detent really well on a crossbar lock because you don't always see that with a crossbar lock. A lot of times they're spongy. This one, good detent for a crossbar lock. So happy to see that. Now, it is not a large knife. It's more of a medium-sized knife, which I think that this is a great size, great everything, great thickness, great weight, great ergonomics. You know, it's just, you feel like you have a ton of control over it. And during all the testing I was doing, that's one thing that stood out to me was just how much control I had over this knife. You know, you always feel like you're in control. And it's not like it's a big knife where you have, like, you know, fixed blade ergonomics or anything. So to get that out of a small knife like this, it's awesome. So the blade, very thin. This is a slicer. This is right around 88 thousandths, and then up here near the nose where you're really doing a lot of cutting, it's about 74 thousandths. So very thin blade, stock thickness in the cutting area. And it's not the thinnest behind the edge, but, you know, it's right around 20 to 23 thousandths behind the edge. But it's because of the blade stock being so thin, it does pass through materials very nicely. let's talk about the sharpening, and then we will get into the edge retention test. So I did put it on the stone and I sharpened it freehand to a polished edge. Going through the stones, it sharpened up really good. It didn't, you know, it felt good on the stone. There was no problems with it. Felt really nice. And through each stone went fairly quickly. The diamonds cut the steel very well, which, you know, is always a great thing when you're sharpening. So it was pretty easy to put an edge on it. And I noticed, you know, the ergonomics of the handle it's really nice getting a blade and handle that complements each other really well, because when you get on the stone, it's easy to sharpen. It just makes it easier to hold your angle, you know, and just go through all the processes of sharpening. So really happy to see that. The sharpening tool and plunge grind is done really well. They separated the end of the plunge grind from the edge, so that's good. And you know, by the time I got to my final stone, the burr popped right off very easily. And, you know, actually by the time I got to my final stone, there really wasn't much of a burr because I was going up to 3,500 grit. So I went to 3,500 grit. You know, the burr minimization went really well. The edge came out super crispy, super sharp. Hit it on the strop, a couple passes on the strop, and it came out paper towel whittling or paper towel S-curving sharp. Very, very sharp, basically. Extremely sticky, even with the polished edge, nice and sticky, came out really, really well. Now, as far as the edge retention tests, so I'm not gonna make you wait for the numbers. I'll tell you the number right away, but I do have to break it down that I used single-walled cardboard in this test. I bought a pack of single-walled cardboard. I'm maybe gonna start doing, you know, my tests on that instead of the double-walled. It's just easier to get and it be consistent. So anyways, my point is that my other MAGNACUT tests that I've done were all on double walled. So it's hard to compare it to those ones, but we're gonna do our best. This got right around 800 feet of cardboard. So 800 feet of single walled cardboard. Now, to be honest, this is, well, they say this is 62 HRC. So the tests I did on 63 to 64 HRC on a different model got similar results with double walled. So I do think that maybe, you know, if they bumped up the HRC just a little bit, we would get a bit more edge retention out of it. Now, 800 feet is no slouch. 800 feet is a heck of a lot of cutting. It is a ton of cutting. So I'm not arguing that it doesn't have good edge retention. I'm not arguing that at all. It just, you know, between 63 and 64, it really, you know, comes out that edge retention. This basically was similar to my other tests, you know, between 61 and 62 HRC. I would say if it was double walled, it'd probably be like 600 feet of cardboard, 550 to 600 feet. So not too shabby, but still not as good as 63, 64. And another thing, I have honed and stropped it back multiple times, and it has honed and stropped back very well. Been very happy with it. However, it never came back to that super crispiness that you get when it's a little bit harder, at least from my experience. And I'm basing all these things off of, remember, this is just purely anecdotal. It's just my opinion. I'm not saying anything is scientific here, but, you know, after testing the same steel over and 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 over at different heat treats, different HRCs from different companies, you start getting a feeling of how a steel performs and how well it performs, you know, depending on different, you know, different scenarios and different things. So I've got a lot of experience with MAGNACUT under my belt, and you know, this stuff felt fine, it's good, but I do think that if it was just bumped up just a little bit, I do really think that it would, you know, just spike. I think that the honing and stropping, it would come back super crispy, because I noticed on MAGNACUT, my MAGNACUT that's between, you know, that's 63 plus, that stuff will come back not only over and over, but it comes back like almost as sharp as it was, pretty much as sharp as it was fresh off the stone, you know, over and over. So anyways, it still came back, so not a big deal at all. And while doing the test, I've never really got fatigued with this hand. I got more fatigued with this hand holding the cardboard. So that's a good thing, you know. I'm not saying that this is gonna be something you're gonna wanna bear down on wood long term or anything like that. but for basic EDC cutting, it's great. The clip does not really get in your hand, and you would think it would considering how deep it is, because if you look, man, that thing is really deep, right? But the way they placed it, they actually placed it perfectly. I'm happy that they didn't make it level with the scale, because in that case, it would be right into my hand. But since it's placed where it is, it goes right outside my hand, and it makes it very, very comfortable. The clip actually carries really well in the pocket as well. So very happy with how smooth it was. It slides in and out of the pockets, even with my thick jeans, which a lot of clips, you know, have trouble with. My thick jeans, and went smooth in and out, no problems. This is definitely one that's enjoyable to carry. Now, as far as negatives go, right? Let's talk about some negatives. One negative is T6s. I'd way rather see T8s. I'm surprised that the USA made knives, you know, from like Kershaw and stuff, don't just use T8s across the board. It makes it so much easier to not strip out, and just makes it easier to maintain your knife. So that's something I would like to see. The next thing is, you know, the thinness behind the edge. It could be a little bit thinner behind the edge. Now, I know they're doing that for stability and toughness. I get that. But they're already doing their HRC at 62, which is super tough for MAGNACUT. MAGNACUT is very tough at 62. I would love to see both, actually. I'd love to see it thinned out just a little bit behind the edge, but also higher HRC, or one or the other. Either way, it's not bad. It's still really good. These are just nitpicks on things that can maybe improve it slightly, you know, a little bit. Other than that, you know, the only other thing I could say, you know, I mean, and this is going to be for all knives done in aluminum, you know, aluminum is going to scratch. You're going to get that. It's going to show wear. Mine is held up pretty well, though. Granted, I haven't tossed it across concrete or anything, but, you know, I don't see any scuffs or wear. The coating in the blade is held up really nicely. I mean, yeah, you see a little bit in the blade, but for the most part, it's good. So the coating, outstanding. I'm very happy with how the coating's holding up. A couple little tiny nitpicks would be like, you know, the clip could be inset. It already has flat screws, but if it was inset, you know, it would be even nicer, you know, and, you know, inset on this side as well. I know that would add a little cutout right there, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And if they really wanted to, they could offer a little plate to put over it. The next thing, my geometry, or sorry, not geometry, my blade was a little bit off on one side, right here near the heel. The geometry is different, so it's a little bit thicker on this side than this side. Not a big deal. I don't even care, but I'm just calling out the little nitpicks. But, you know, I could see even from the factory that my bevel was a lot smaller in the back than it was on the rest of the edge. So I already pretty much knew that that was going to be the case, but, you know, it's not going to really affect anything. It's more of just a visual thing. And to be honest, I was able to get it really close to where it's barely even visual. There's really not much negative here. You know, this thing is done very well. Kershaw did an outstanding job. I'm happy that this is, you know, a knife made in the USA. I'm so happy that they made this in the USA, and I'm happy they did it as well as they have, you know, with having very, very, very minimal critiques. And, you know, as much as I've carried and used it, it's a dream. It's perfect. It's literally the perfect manual knife from Kershaw, you know, being made in the USA right now. So very happy that they did this. And you know, I've been critical of all companies. All companies I'm critical over, you know, and I have to be. That's what I'm supposed to do. And you know, Kershaw is a company I'm always rooting for. I really am. You know, like, I don't, man, Kershaw helped bring me to the community because, you know, they were like the first knives I ever really experienced that were good quality at the time for like 60 bucks, you know, which at the time for me was a lot of money to spend on a knife. Like, you know, to spend 60 bucks on a knife, that meant you had a premium knife. You know, looking back now, I know that's not true, but you know what I mean? It's, you know, it makes you feel good. And when you feel that level of quality, you're like, man, so this is what 60 bucks get you. And you realize just how much better a $60 knife is over a $15, $20 knife or a $10 knife. So, you know, like I said, I'm always rooting for Kershaw. This is absolutely a Benchmade Bugout killer. You're getting, with the Benchmade Bugout, you're getting FRN and S30V for like 160, 170 bucks. You're getting MAGNACUT and aluminum for less money here. Now, some people would argue or would, you know, say, well, what about the Hogue Deka? And I would say, yeah, that's a good argument because the Hogue Deka is a Benchmade Bugout killer too. You're getting for like 140 bucks, you're getting FRN and MAGNACUT. Now, this does have the aluminum, so it does have the upper hand with that, but Hogue was doing their MAGNACUT at 6162 and changed it to 6364. I've tested it at 6162 and 6364, and it is, you know, a bit better, quite a bit better than what it was. So, and I'm really happy they did that, and I'm hoping that Kershaw follows suit and does that too eventually. But all in all, like I said, you know, it's still doing really good. And some people would probably argue that this is still a better purchase than the Hogue Deka. So if you argued and said that this is a Hogue Deka killer and a Bugout killer, I couldn't debate you because, you know, it kind of is. Now, I have aluminum scales on my Hogue Deka, so mine's quite a bit upgraded from the original. Just saying, original GOAT, link down below, 15% off, check it out. Yeah, with the original GOAT scales, that takes the Hogue Deka to another level, but this comes with aluminum scales from the factory. So, what more can I say? What more can I say? Like I said, if you guys are wanting to get it, definitely check out the NEEVEKNIFECO site, link down in the description. I will link other sites just in case if they're sold out there or if you want to just purchase it from a different place. So I'll link as much as I can down in the description. Work hard, stay tough. Until next time, peace.